Welcome to Skytech-Lens. This isn't just about politicians or distant capitals, it's about the milk in your fridge and the car in your driveway. A major trade conflict is unfolding between the United States and Canada, starting with dairy and now rippling across the economy. The heart of the conflict? Two very different ideas about how to run a country's economy. The US wants open markets and fewer barriers. Canada insists on protecting key sectors like dairy to support its communities. This fundamental disagreement has erupted into a standoff, leaving businesses and workers caught in the middle. The Trump administration's weapon of choice? Tariffs. In August 2025, after talks stalled, Washington hiked tariffs on Canadian goods from 25% to 35%. The goal pressured Canada to dismantle its dairy protections and open its market to American milk, cheese, and butter. But instead of targeting Canadian dairy directly, the US slapped tariffs on steel, aluminum, and auto materials, some as high as 50%. This was a calculated move to get other Canadian industries to pressure their own government. The message, give us access to your dairy market or your other industries will pay. This strategy marks a major escalation, moving beyond USMCA rules into aggressive, unilateral action. The administration is willing to risk widespread economic disruption to achieve its goals, even if it means hurting a close ally. The entire continent is watching. Will this gamble work, or will it backfire? Early signs point to a rocky road ahead, with both economies bracing for impact. Canadian industries are now caught in the crossfire, and the pressure is mounting. The US hopes pain will force change, but the outcome is far from certain. This is not just about dairy anymore, it's about the future of North American trade. The stakes have never been higher for both countries. As the tariffs bite, the world waits to see who blinks first. The next moves could reshape the economic relationship for years to come. Why won't Canada budge? It all comes down to supply management. For over 60 years, this system has been the backbone of Canadian dairy. It's built on three pillars: production quotas, price controls, and import limits. The government sets how much milk each farmer can produce, preventing oversupply and price crashes. Prices are set to ensure farmers cover their costs and earn a fair return. The third pillar, import control, caps foreign dairy at about 3.5% of Canadian consumption. Go over that, and tariffs skyrocket, protecting local farmers from being undercut. For Canadian farmers, this means stability and the survival of family-run operations. It's not just policy, it's part of Canada's identity and political culture. Supply management enjoys broad support across parties and regions. Canadians see it as a fair system that guarantees high-quality local milk. The American demand to dismantle it isn't just a trade request, it's seen as an attack on a way of life. That's why the Canadian government is standing firm. For them, supply management is non-negotiable. It's about more than economics. It's about community and sovereignty. The US push to open the market is hitting a wall built on decades of national consensus. This is why compromise seems impossible. Under pressure, Canada's response has been swift and united. Prime Minister Mark Carney drew a line: Canada will not sacrifice its supply management system. Parliament passed Bill C-202, making it illegal to use dairy, poultry, or eggs as bargaining chips in trade talks. This law ties the government's hands and sends a clear message: the dairy system is off limits now and in the future. The move transforms a political promise into a legal barrier. The US can no longer hope to force concessions. Canada's parliament has closed that door. Instead of caving, Canada is cushioning the blow for affected industries with support packages. The government is also pivoting, seeking new trade partners in Europe and Asia to reduce reliance on the US. This is a long-term strategy to build resilience against future American pressure. Canada's stance is a direct challenge to Washington's tariff tactics. The message sovereignty and rural stability are non-negotiable. Canada is prepared to endure economic pain to protect its core interests. The standoff has fundamentally changed the dynamic of North American trade. Both sides are digging in, and the world is watching. The next chapter will test the limits of this economic partnership. The Trump administration's plan to help American dairy farmers has backfired. Instead of new opportunities, farmers face chaos and financial pain. Border slowdowns and canceled contracts have left US farmers with unsold milk and cheese piling up. Prices are falling even further, making a tough situation worse. Northern states like Wisconsin and New York are hit hardest, with farmers losing access to Canadian buyers they've relied on for years. The promise of a bigger Canadian market has turned into a loss of what little access they had. The policy meant to help has become a source of economic pain. The administration underestimated the complexity of cross-border supply chains. When Canada didn't cave, there was no backup plan. American farmers are now caught in a trade war they can't control. The hope for a quick win has vanished, replaced by frustration and uncertainty. The strategy overlooked the realities of modern trade. Instead of breaking down barriers, it's built new ones. Farmers are left wondering if the promise of an open Canadian market was ever realistic. The cost of this gamble is being paid on both sides of the border. What started as a dairy dispute is now hammering the American auto industry. Tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto parts have sent shockwaves through Detroit. Stellantis, GM, and Ford are reporting billions in losses. With jobs and investments on the line, cars aren't made in one country anymore. Parts cross the border multiple times before assembly. Tariffs hit at every stage, multiplying costs and disrupting supply chains. The result? Higher prices for consumers, up to $9,000 more per new car if the dispute drags on. Sales are dropping, and the threat of layoffs looms large. The attempt to win on dairy has triggered a chain reaction, threatening the entire U.S. auto sector. The real cost is being paid by workers and families far from the original dispute. The longer the standoff lasts, the deeper the damage. A fight over milk now risks crippling one of America's most vital industries. The Trump administration claims Canada slaps a 270% to 300% tariff on all U.S. dairy. But that's not the whole story. Those massive tariffs only apply to imports above a set quota. Under the USMCA, the U.S. already has generous tariff-free access to the Canadian dairy market. For thousands of tons of milk, cheese, and yogurt, the tariff is zero. The high tariffs only kick in if exporters exceed those quotas. In reality, U.S. exporters rarely even fill their quota. Most categories are only 21% to 26% full. There's plenty of room for more U.S. dairy to enter Canada tariff-free. The real issue isn't tariffs, but how Canada allocates import licenses, which some say favors Canadian processors. Even so, U.S. dairy exports to Canada have grown, up 55% since 2020, reaching over $1.1 billion in 2024. The 300% tariff claim is more myth than reality. The real barriers are administrative, not financial. The dispute is less about unfair tariffs and more about market access and allocation. The facts show the U.S. isn't locked out. It just isn't filling the quota. The rhetoric doesn't match the numbers. The dairy dispute is a tale of two farmers. In Wisconsin, the American farmer faces relentless competition, low prices, and the constant need to find new markets. For them, export markets are a lifeline, and Canada's supply management feels like a locked door. They see the dispute as a fight for fairness and survival. In Quebec, the Canadian farmer enjoys stability and predictability. Supply management means they know how much to produce and what they'll earn. It's a social contract that protects family farms and rural communities. For them, U.S. demands threaten their way of life and the future of small farms. The dispute isn't just about economics, it's about culture, community, and survival. Both farmers are fighting for their future, but their solutions couldn't be more different. One seeks open markets, the other defends stability. The standoff is a battle for two visions of agriculture. The trade war has shattered the old certainty of U.S.-Canada partnership. Even with the USMCA, deep disagreements have erupted into economic warfare. Tariffs meant to pressure Canada are hurting American farmers and auto workers most. Canada, meanwhile, is showing resilience, supporting its industries and seeking new trade partners. The standoff is forcing Canada to rethink its economic future and diversify away from the U.S. The lesson: even a superpower can't easily force a determined ally to abandon core policies. Tariffs are a blunt tool, often hurting the user as much as the target. There's no clear winner, just mounting costs and growing uncertainty. American workers are bearing the heaviest load in a trade war with no end in sight. The future of North American trade hangs in the balance. Thanks for watching a video. Subscribe the channel now for more updates. Thanks.